When I walked into the patient's room, the blinds were closed. She was in the dark. Why has nobody come in here to open things up for her? She could potentially have been neglected by the staff. And I really need you to come look at her. And my professor looked at me and said, worry about it when you're a real nurse. Because I thought, if that was my grandmother, if that was my mother, that's not the kind of care that I would condone. I'm very strong on loyalty. I said, I'm not going to leave a department that I just got hired in. And they said, well, think about it. I went to my boss and I said, hey, I just want to let you know, because I don't want you to hear it from anybody else but me. The HR office called me about XYZ, and she says, well, why aren't you considering it? I was put into leadership early on in my career without really any proper guidance about how to be a good manager.
So you were thrust into the job.
I've got a huge responsibility. I just need work to get done.
This is a common thing, particularly for women, is not welcomed in many, many different places. This is Inspiring Women. I'm Lori McGraw, and today I'm speaking with Jessica Palacios, and she is the Associate Director of System Benefits Administration for the Texas A&M University System. That is a large system. That is a Texas system. Yes. Jessica, thank you for being on Inspiring Women.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation.
This is going to be a great conversation. We're going to talk all about benefits, what's happening in the space, what does it mean to take care of all of those people that you need to care for. So I think the important first question that our audience wants to know the most is, let's talk about football.
Sure.
So Jessica, you're a huge fan. You grew up at Texas A&M. So just tell us why you love football so much.
I think I really didn't get into football until Troy Aikman's rookie year with the Cowboys, when they only won one game that year. And I think it was a way for me and my dad to connect on things, because that's what he was doing every Sunday all day. And I just wanted to be with him and what was he doing and learning. And just over time, I kind of learned about the game and really grew a passion for the game. Although now I love college football more than NFL, but it's still up there. I still root for the Cowboys.
Well, you're in Texas. You kind of have to.
Yes.
I think it's a law as far as I understand. So, but you're not just like a casual fan. You're a super fan. I mean, we're talking like every weekend, every game.
For the Texas Aggies, for sure. I'm a season ticket holder, so I'm at all the home games. I try to travel to at least one away game per year. Doesn't always work out, but I try. Aggies do travel well for their team, and so I really enjoy it. There's nothing like a game day experience at Kyle Field. That's for sure. Whether you're an Aggie or not an Aggie, I encourage everybody to come to a game at Kyle Field and experience what we have to offer.
Well, you had quite a year last year. So
we did.
I think it's a good time to be a Texas A&M and a good time to be an Aggie. So Jessica, let's just talk about you. Let's talk about what you do at Texas A&M. Why don't you just start with your current role?
Yeah, so currently I'm the Associate Director, as you mentioned, of the System Benefit Administration Office. And so we are at the headquarters, so at the system office. And so our office is responsible for designing, procuring, implementing all of the employee and retiree benefit offerings that we have for the employees and retirees and their dependents across the system.
So how many people are you actually thinking about on a regular basis that you need to provide all of these benefits for?
It's about 11,000 retirees, and then on the medical plan, I think we have like over 50,000 covered lives on the medical plan, so quite a bit. So 37,000 benefit eligible employees plus their dependents.
Yeah, it's a lot of people and a lot of different types of people there, and they're not surprisingly all in Texas. So
no, the majority of them are in Texas, but we do have employees in every county in Texas, which makes this unique because we're not only an institution of higher education. We also have several state agencies under our jurisdiction, like the Texas Forest Service, Texas Division of Emergency Management. Those are obviously not colleges or universities. Right. And then we do have our campus in Qatar, in Doha. So we do have employees there as well.
So Jessica, you've been there for some time now. Yes. So is it over 20 years that you've been there? So a bit of time. Tell us a little bit about sort of you're at a very senior position responsible for all of these people, but where did it start? How did the benefit space become destination for Jessica?
It was kind of by accident, honestly. I started out wanting to be a nurse. My mother's a nurse. I wanted to be a nurse. I had a passion of caring for people and being of service. A lot of my grandparents, my parents are worked in areas of different types of service, whether the military, public sector. My dad worked for Southwestern Bell, which was ultimately AT&T by the time he retired. And so it's always been in these areas of in service to people. People thought I would be a teacher, and I was like, no, that's not for me. And I was
Why not? Why not?
I was like, no.
Nothing against teachers.
Nothing against teachers. I just knew it just was not in my DNA to do that. And I really wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to be, the kind of person who could provide kind of that care and comfort to individuals during times of need. And I was 2 semesters away from becoming a registered nurse when I left the program and had to pivot to do something else. And then I kind of went through a bunch of different degree options: accounting, psychology, sociology. I mean,
Why
name
did you
it.
pivot? What, did you just decide that this wasn't the calling?
No, it was. It was very much a calling for me, but during my program, during our clinicals, so our rounds at the hospital and whatnot, I was assigned a patient. And when I walked into the patient's room, the blinds were closed. She was in the dark, completely in the dark. And it was like the middle of the day. And I'm like, why has nobody come in here to open things up for her? And when I did, she was an older lady. She was very thin, very frail. Her IV pump had a bunch of pictures taped to it, which were her family members. So, and I was supposed to give her bed bath, change her linens, give her medications, all the things. And when I pulled back the sheets, she had a lot of bed sores, and excuse me, she wasn't on an appropriate mattress for bed sores. And so I got really concerned. So I covered her back up. I went straight to my faculty member that was on staff that day, which is one of my professors. And I said, I really need you to come look at this patient. She's in a really bad way. I don't even know how to start the bed bath for her. I was like, I have a lot of concerns. I said, she could potentially have been neglected by the staff. And I really need you to come look at her. And my professor looked at me and said, worry about it when you're a real nurse. Because I was like, I think we need to file a complaint. I think we need, we need to raise the flag. And she would not come look at my patient. And I just had to do the best that I could that day. And I got home and I sat in my driveway for 30 minutes and I was just crying. Because I thought, if that was my grandmother, if that was my mother, that's not the kind of care that I would condone. And I did not want to associate my name with a program that condoned that kind of care. So it was more like a moral and ethical dilemma that I was having in the moment. And I finished the semester and told my mother I would be leaving the program.
Yeah. Well, Jessica, that is a heartbreaking story.
I think about that patient all the time.
Clearly, and clearly that story or that experience of caring for that woman that you were unable to prevent, that has led to a career of caring for many in the masses. And so with that, I'll just call that caring persona, person of service. Then how did you move from wanting to be a nurse, which is so obviously tied to service, to becoming an HR person, to becoming a benefits leader? How did that happen?
That actually came through the help of one of my faculty members when I bounced around to different schools, and then I was kind of back home at my campus back home, and I had gone through all these different degree programs. I had constantly been changing my major and every major was significant to me. There was something I really liked about that major, but I kept telling myself, I just don't know that I can find myself doing that one thing as a career for my life. And so I kept struggling with that. And when I got to Texas A&M International University and I enrolled, I was like, well, I'll just get a business degree and just be done. It took me 10 years to get my bachelor's. So the first meeting I had with my faculty advisor, I told her, it was kind of like, let's make a deal. These are all the classes that I've taken in all these different places.
And this is before AI. That you could just
Yes.
throw it in and give me
And
all the
I was
options.
like, what is the shortest path to a degree here? Like, I just need to finish. Like, I should have graduated a long time ago. And so she asked me, like, well, why did you do this degree? Why were you looking at accounting? Why were you looking at
Yeah.
psychology? And so we kind of went through each one, and she said, why were you doing that?
Yeah.
Why did you want to be a nurse? Why? And I said, so I answered all her questions, and she says, well, I think you should do human resources. And I'm like, what's that? And she's like, well, like where, when you like get a job, I'm like, you're talking about the personnel office? And she says, well, it's an evolving area. We don't call it that anymore.
I love the way that she just said that, right? Audience, did you hear how she condescended to the entire HR profession?
Yes. And I was like, okay, well, sign me up for that degree program. And she says, well, we don't offer that here. I said, then why are you talking to me about it? And she says, hold on, I'm going to give you a path for it. And I said, okay. And, but surprisingly enough, I was kind of already doing benefits for the county of Webb at the time that I was going to school. And I was learning like the reconciliation of a self-insured plan. I was learning about the RFP process, but it was in the risk management office, not in the HR office. So I didn't make the correlation at the time. And she says, well, I'm going to put you into the management program. So like you're going to get a business administration degree with a concentration in management. And all your electives, you're going to take the HR classes that we offer. And I said, sure. Why not? The
reluctant leader.
I just need to finish, And she says, I promise you, this is where you need to be. And I said, okay, I'm going to trust you because I need to finish. And so as I was going to school at TAMU, then I decided that the commute was too far from downtown to the campus.
I just love how you can't be bothered.
No, I cannot.
Just like, I have got to finish.
I cannot.
I need the shortest path. Oh my God, my commute's too long. Just get me a job.
Exactly. And I was working full time at the county, but the commute was starting to become cumbersome for me because classes were like at 2:30 in the afternoon. I was losing half a day of work every time I needed to go to class. And my boss was super supportive, by the way. But I was like, this is just not working for me. So I decided to take a secretary position on campus, take a pay cut to be on campus. And I was like, well, it's a secretary position in the School of Business. I'll get to know the professors, all these things like make the connections, do the networking, all of that. And then it just so happened like 6 months later, the HR office reached out to me and said, hey, we remember, mind you, paper applications back then. She says, we remember your application and that you were doing benefits at the county. And I said, yes. And they said, well, we're going to have a benefits opening in our department. Would you be interested? And I said, well, I'm not allowed to transfer positions as per system regulation. I haven't been here long enough. And they said, we can work around that. Is it something you'd be interested in? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I just started this job. I'm very strong on loyalty. I said, I'm not going to leave a department that I just got hired in. And they said, well, think about it. So I try to be an honest person. I went to my boss and I said, hey, I just want to let you know because I don't want you to hear it from anybody else but me. The HR office called me about XYZ. And she says, well, why aren't you considering it? And I said, because you just hired me. Like, I'm not going to leave you in the lurch. And she said, but isn't that what you want to do? I said, I think that's what I want to do. I mean, that's what my faculty advisor said I should do. And she says, you need to consider it. And I'm like, but I'm going to leave you. And she says, we can get another secretary. She's like, don't feel that bad. And so I interviewed and they hired me. And that kind of started my career. And I thought, well, this is a place that I could make a career long term, and stick with the company. I'm very loyal.
Clearly.
My parents are boomers. My grandparents are traditionalists. I always say I was raised by traditionalists, and I have somewhat of a traditionalist mindset with the Gen X thrown into it. And I thought, well, they've got great benefits. There's a pension. Like, why wouldn't I want to stay here forever? You know? And then I just kind of started working my way up through the different areas of HR. Benefits is my passion place. Because I feel it's the one area where you can make the most impact on an employee at home. Aside from the paycheck.
Yep. So Jessica, I just want to sort of unpack a little bit here. This is so delightful.
I know.
Honestly.
I'm sorry. It's a lot.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome because like the path to leadership is never a straight line. It's
Right.
never like you wake up one day and then say like, hey, I want to be, this person this many years forward. But that's your path.
Yeah.
And so if you think about where you are today after 20 plus years of service, a service orientation, wanting to have an impact, what are some of the lessons that you're using today at your leadership level from the early days of when you started out that help you in terms of decision making, the impact that you intend to have or want to have or do have on others?
Yes. I think one of the earliest things I learned from my first HR director, which was there at TAMU, and, the first day that I kind of walked into the department to work for the department, she sat me down and she asked me a few questions and learn a little bit about me because she wasn't the one that had interviewed me. And she says, well, I want you to know, she says, if there's anything I can tell you is that everything is fixable. So there's going to be mistakes. We do a lot of manual data entry into the system and things like that. So, obviously we want to try to avoid those things.
Yeah.
But everything is fixable. So don't panic. Like, just if something happens, we'll figure out what the solution is. And I think I've always carried that with me. And I still say it to this day to people. I'm like, guys, everything's fixable.
Yeah.
Like, I might not be happy that something happened.
Yeah.
But I'm going to help you fix it. And I'm going to help you find a solution to get out of this, to make everything right and make the employee whole.
What a calming, sort of
Yes.
like stabilizing thing to lay out there that just like gives you confidence. Like,
Yes.
okay, probably I would assume gave you the opportunity to take more risks
Yes.
along the way. So let's talk about that because in the world of benefits and leaderships, we're in a time and we're at a conference together where we're talking about what it takes to be bold and take more risks and be disruptive, mainly because of the cost curves that are going in a bad direction, the wrong direction, mainly because outcomes for people are not where they should be. And so in that, from a risk-taking standpoint, are you a risk taker? Do you feel like you're a risk taker? Are you comfortable with risk?
Some risk, yes.
Yeah.
It depends on what the risk is. Like, I'm not going to like jump out of a plane
Yep.
or do anything like that. But
Are we going to talk about football again? Are we
right.
gonna-
No, but I will push the envelope sometimes if I feel passionate about something or I feel really passionate about a position, and sometimes that's not always popular with people. Because I always tell people, like, I'm like the loudest quiet person you've ever met.
Yeah.
I'm a really quiet, shy person until I'm not. And then I don't mind being bold and loud and trying to push something.
What's an example of when that switch turned on for you?
I think it was really from that first HR director that I had, because she gave me a lot of space
Yep.
to be the decision maker.
Yep.
And on certain things, not all things, like things that were within my purview or my area of responsibility within my position.
Yep.
And she would say, you don't always have to come and ask me about that. Like, if you've thought through everything and you make a decision, and if it turns out not to be the wrong one, like, I'll still support you. If you can show me how you got there, we may have to fix something, but she always kind of gave me the room to do that and the support to do that. And I think just over time, that's a skill that I just kind of honed. And it's like, the more you do it, the more you become comfortable with it.
It's really true. I mean, it's so like, big decisions, again, if you're taking care of tens of thousands of people. Yes. And so the decisions that you're making is whether they can afford their health care, whether they'll be able to afford their medications that they might be on. I mean, these are very impactful decisions that you need to make. So when you talk about sort of like being comfortable, being quiet until then you're going to be loud, where do those triggers happen? What are the types of things that make you be loud and heard?
I think when I feel that something is not happening that's going to be in the best interest of the employees, or if I feel that what's being asked of us could be like a compliance issue, or if I see our workstations, for example, they have benefits people within each of the HR offices that report to the HR directors. They don't report to us, but yet we are the policymakers for the plans.
Yeah.
And so when things aren't happening and you have to speak up and say, we really need you to be doing it this way and not that way, and this is why, sometimes you have to speak up when it's detrimental to the employee or it's not benefiting the employee. So
Yeah.
I speak a lot to our benefit offices about coming from a proactive stance versus a reactive stance. You are their partner. You are the employee's partner in this process. Mm-hmm. You're not just there to enroll them in benefits.
Yep.
You're there to help educate them, to help guide them. And you cannot come from a reactive standpoint where you're just constantly reacting to problems that they're bringing you. You have to begin to come at it from a different mindset where if they're talking to you and they're like, oh my God, like I was just at the doctor and I got a new diabetes diagnosis, it shouldn't be to be talking about something else. It should be, hey, did you know that we have a diabetes program where you're going to get, a free monitor, you're going to get the Lancet, it's all at no cost to you.
Yeah.
And the health plan covers it.
Yeah.
And you can do it at home.
Yeah.
Did you know that you have a health advocate that can help you manage your claim? Come from a proactive stance.
Yeah.
Help educate, help them understand how they can be smart consumers of their health care.
Yeah.
And so when some of that's not happening, when I'm feeling like the employee might be not getting slighted, but the employee could have a better experience.
Yeah.
That's when I'm like, I think I need to say something.
I can almost sort of hear that original story that you told
Yes.
about, when you were going to be a nurse coming
Yes.
through in your decision making
Yeah.
and where you're willing to advocate. Let's just move a little bit to leadership style. And so Jessica, as you are, whether it's decision making or working with others, what is your leadership style? What are you known for?
It depends who you ask.
Lori McGraw over here.
I've had a bumpy road with leadership. I was put into leadership early on in my career without really any proper guidance about how to be a good manager.
So you were thrust into the job.
Yes,
thrust
it's
into
kind of
the
like
spotlight.
all of a sudden we're gonna, we're promoting you, and you've got 3 people that report to you.
It happens to many people.
It
and
does.
it's so what do you do? I mean, deer in the headlights this is not the right option.
Exactly. And I was like, well, I have to do this. And so early on in my career, people might have described me as, abrasive or something like that. I'm a very direct individual.
Yeah.
And I used to get a lot of comments about tone and tact. I'll be honest. I mean, but I was like, I've got a huge responsibility. Like, I just need work to get done.
Yeah. This is a common thing, particularly
Yes.
for women, so being very aggressive in tone is not welcomed in many, many different
Right.
places. So, and I don't know how it is in Texas, but I'm just assuming that
depends.
might be a little bit of a problem.
And so I think over time, constantly hearing that, and then I had a different HR director, and I was still working at Texas A&M University, and this, it kept coming up. Like they're like, she's a good manager, but her tone and tact, like the way she talks to us, it's just, and I'm just like, well, I'm just talking like I talk, like I don't know how to.
Did you try to change it?
What my voice sounds like.
With feedback, did you try to change?
I did. That HR director said, you know what, I'm gonna do some training with you.
Okay.
And so she purchased some books on emotional intelligence, and she had me read through the books. Some of them were from the Harvard Business Review and things like that. And we kind of worked through the chapters. So she would be like, okay, I want you to read these chapters,
Wow.
reflect, and we would meet every week. And we would talk through it. And so I think a lot of that helped me understand where my irritation was coming from.
Yeah.
Because ultimately the tone and tact was a result of me being irritated about something that I couldn't control, and learning to know that, okay, you can't control everything.
Yeah.
I'm a very type A personality
Yeah.
person, but you can't control everything. And I think over time I've really tried to be more soft with my direct reports, be more empathetic with them. And I think it's worked. I think some people will still say She's a hard person to work for, but you learn a lot from her.
Yeah.
Like there is an advantage to working for her because I really want everybody to thrive.
Yeah.
I don't want people to be working for me forever. I want to see you move on. I want to see you get promoted. I want you to see that you have more opportunities, but there's also a lot that you need to learn to be able to make those jumps.
Yep.
And I'm here to help you learn if you want to learn.
Yeah.
So if you take advantage of me and what I offer in that perspective, it's great.
Yeah.
If you're just here to come into work every day and do the same job that you've been doing the whole time, great. But then I'm going to expect you to be fantastic at that job because that's all you're doing.
Yep.
So you kind of have to balance that a little bit.
Yep. Well, as we round out this Inspiring Women conversation, this is just delightful, Jessica, I have to say. That's a really large investment that someone made in you at a point in time that sounds like it was helpful to you along the way. How do you invest in others as a leader today? How do you say, I'm going to invest in this person? Do you do it for everyone? What do you choose to do?
Yes. And so this is something that we've been doing intentionally, I think, for the past couple of years with myself and my boss, the director of the department, of how can we give our staff more opportunities. So we've given them opportunities to do vendor relationship management.
Yep.
We've assigned them different vendors, like you're the point person.
Yep.
It helps develop that skill set. Do you want to get certified in human resources or in benefits? We will help you get there.
Yep.
We will help you with doing the training modules. We will help you paying for the test. Do you want to go back to school to get your master's? They were supportive when I got my master's. We'll be flexible with the schedule. We have education release time. We have certain benefits with scholarships that come from the chancellor's office. Like there are ways for you to be successful at doing that too.
Yeah.
And we will support you. So I constantly try to strive to push my staff, like, I will support you.
Yeah.
Let me know what it is you want to do. Let me know what your goals and dreams are, and let's see how I can help you get there.
That is just awesome. This has been really just such a fun, Inspiring Women conversation. I've been speaking with Jessica Palacios. Jessica, thank you.
Thank you so much.
much.
Thank you for having me.